roll call. Ed Rankin,
Here.
Paul Bissonnette,
Here.
and Mark Eastman is here. The next item is elect a chair. Take nominations.
Nominate Mark Eastman. Second.
Okay. All in favor? Okay. Second item on there is animal shelter.
You have some information in your packet provided by our deputy chief and animal control officer, which were asked to provide a sort of what does the facility need to have in it, and some potential kind of layout for that. The discussion was whether the council wished to move, the committee wished to move this forward to develop into a more full-fledged proposal, which is in engineered drawings and site work. But the big question, if you did, is what site you decide you would like to pursue, whether that's the one behind the town garage or the one in its current location behind the transfer station, which are really the two locations that we have available to us.
I thought mention of by the solar field, solar panels.
Oh, the wastewater, where they dump snow?
Yeah.
But it doesn't really, I don't think we'd have to create parking, we'd have to.
The snow dump area is next to a residential, closer to a residence, the one that's right there as you go in on that drive. And then it would relocate our snow dump to some other
Gotcha.
other location, which would be a more difficult, and it puts it right across from what may be someday developed into something other than a lawsuit that we have sitting on the other side of the road for the spring fountain, which may not be the best. And while I know there was concern expressed about up behind the highway garage to the left of the road that goes down to that's the entrance to Silver Lake Trails that goes down to the parking,
Mm-hmm.
that the left side of that, as you go down over a bit, isn't direct. It's further away from Hawes' projected additional development that he talked about, and would allow for orientation on the site to have it be going away from the properties that are up at the road, and then also include the kind of sound deadening that was proposed to be put on our current one as a stopgap measure to address some of the Silver Lake Estates residents' concerns, but which was too heavy for the fencing that we have wouldn't support it. It wasn't constructed to do that. But and the transfer station site, which has been where it is, I think Jacob looked it up, 1978.
84.
84, well, I got the year wrong, so 1984 was the year that the town built that shelter in that location. So it's been there for some time, and the operation of the transfer station gated, makes it more difficult for people going to get pets or do things, because you've always got the gate, and if it's left open, then we get trash left by people who shouldn't be using the transfer station, which has been, and as I said, locationalizes.
So those are our
Then
two options.
Those are really our two options. 46, we have land out on 46 where we talked about not letting people shoot anymore because it was the old range. That is way, way, way out. That's not a convenient location for an animal shelter in the community. And those are really our 27 Main is not a good location, and that's another, just saying, that's another location that we own, but as much as people have talked about wanting a dog park or something being right in, that's not a perfect location, but the highway garage, not in the area where they have their stuff, but down that road to the left where we own, there's a field that goes down over that might well serve two purposes, which is the animal shelter, and then if the town decided to do a dog park, that would be a great co-location, because it would allow the animal shelter to also utilize the dog park for exercising.
With that in mind, Sue, should we consider at least the possibility of a public bathroom within that shelter? Or, you know, with an outside door or something, so at least if we do the dog park, we've got facilities?
You can engineer anything into a building. I mean, that would be an if.
I don't think that would be a big issue. If you're building a new building,
Right.
to have a bathroom back to back, you know, two separate, one inside, one outside.
I mean, it wouldn't be the worst thing to include it with the design, so at least if we do the dog park segment, we're all set for facilities.
$10,000 to $15,000 more to put a septic system in there if you're gonna put a toilet in it.
The building's gotta have a toilet.
Yeah, but a
Well, I don't
public
know.
one, yeah.
I don't know if it has or not.
But it's gotta have a septic system.
It's gotta have a
Yeah,
septic
'cause
for
there's a bathroom
washing.
in the plans already, yep.
I'd have to, if I could get a hold of him, I'd ask Danny Joy. What I'd do,
For what?
whether or not it's gotta have a bathroom in it.
I don't think we can have water, Jim, without a place to put it. And we could have a
Yes.
gray water system, but I mean, Allison's gonna need a bathroom down there. I don't think that's.
Yeah,
One
that
of
was,
the concerns we have now is we don't have a facility out there for it.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, I don't wanna build another one and not have one.
yeah.
Can I just throw a geography thought out there for this?
What's that?
Can I just throw a geography
Sure.
thought out there for this? It makes sense to put it behind the town garage, but on a whole separate plane with our goal for housing. If Mike Hawes is looking to develop his end of life for the housing and put more out there, if putting it there would discourage more housing, I think that's something that needs to be looked at.
Well, I think, Steve, we could also, through the design, you know, encourage noise mitigation is in the building, in the fencing. I mean, I read a few articles, you know, there was one where they'd done it near a yacht club
Yeah?
and were able to mitigate the noise enough, so I'd like to think we could do it.
But the other thing is that we looked at where his development is going on the other side of the town garage, not on the side that we're talking about on the other side of the Silver Lake Trail entrance. It's on that field beyond that. His is going over on the other side, I believe.
And there'd be a big tree buffer compared to what there is now.
And there wouldn't be a 50-foot metal wall to reverberate the barking off.
Right now, part of what
And there's that.
reverberates is the backdrop of the building provides a great echo chamber for any barking, anything
Right.
to go to. But, yeah, the idea of that is over there, because you know, housing developed, you know, a dog park is an attraction. You know,
Absolutely.
people that are living in his housing may have a dog that they take to the dog park. That changes an attitude tremendously.
So Mark's got a good point. Done correctly with the right buffers or whatever, it could be an
I'd like to
asset.
think, I mean,
Yeah,
I would like to think that's feasible, possible.
yeah.
But I think, to your point, it's gotta be done right. I think part of this engineering study is, a big piece of it is going to be making sure that we mitigate that noise, because I don't wanna do anything if done right, then Mike and the people that live at Silver Lake Estates would be able to view this as something that adds to their community
Right.
that they have out there. You know, that Mike's done a good job out there, and I'd like to see that continue to thrive and grow. And so I think that needs to be, this has to be done correctly, and if we're gonna do it correctly, it may cost a little bit more money, but I think it beats the alternative of not doing not spending a little bit more money and having something that is only half good and
Yeah.
displeasing to people that live near it. You just can't have that. So if we're gonna go down this road, we need to go down the road and not, I don't know what I wanna say there, but not do it half something.
Right.
Yeah.
Have some.
Half something, yeah.
So you're just looking for a recommendation?
I'm looking for something that I can put on the next council agenda as a recommendation from this committee to either forget it, we're not gonna do anything about the animal shelter, just stop, or to recommend that to the council that they have a design engineered for that site that can go to referendum in November.
Motion to put it to the next council meeting.
To put the dog park behind the town garage and to send
Animal
it out for
shelter, potential dog park.
right,
Animal shelter with a dual purpose dog.
with an emphasis on noise mitigation.
Yes.
Yeah.
I will second that.
All in favor? Okay. Next item is Elm Street main sidewalk.
Just one, Deputy Chief Winchester is here. Did you have anything, David, to offer to this?
No, I think you guys nailed it. Allison really wanted to be here, but she's not feeling well. She is watching. So, no, but I think you guys nailed it, and I think the big concern that we all have is the noise and all the effort that Mike has put in out there to his park, and not deterring that. So I think if, like I said, if we're gonna do this, let's do it so it's done well and right, so we don't have to look at changing something.
Yep.
Once we have it built.
I only foresee this growing in community. I don't see it falling behind.
I agree. Yeah, I agree.
So, you good with that, Sue? You good with
I got it, thank you.
that? Elm main sidewalk with Crumpet.
You have a letter from the owners of the Crumpet, downtown, who have some issues with drainage and along beside their business. Jay's here, who's been involved with Public Works for more than 20 years while that building has had, that corner has had some issues, shall we say. The part of the problem, and I'll take a stab at it, turn it over to Jay, is that they're requesting a curb on the sidewalk, which requires the sidewalk to be elevated more than it is now. And if it's elevated more than it is now, it's going to be higher than the back door of their property, which means that water will go, their back door, it will be funneling it towards their back entrance, which is, I understand, kind of straight down. But, and the other problem with putting a curb is the location of that is a handicap spot. And if you put a curb, the people who get out can't get over it to, it's not accessible with a wheelchair if you pull up there, if there's a curb in that location. And the third issue is that they're experiencing water intrusion into their basement, and but there's no water prevention material in their building, between the building and the sidewalk. You know what I mean? There's, for an example, when Community Pharmacy was having some water issues, and we do the sidewalk, we do that. Public Works excavated the sidewalk away from their building. They then treated the wall, put down, I don't know whatever they did, they put down material to prevent water from getting into the building, and then we put the sidewalk back. And to the best of my knowledge, we solved their problem, which was as a result of it going in to their foundation. And The third one is maintenance of this, which is a question, but there's a telephone pole and a sidewalk and an awning and a heat pump output on the building that's just above where the sidewalk plow height goes by. So if there's any amount, do we hit this, do we hit the telephone pole, or do we hit the, it's a, in the past, I understand from Jay, that owners have shoveled that area away. The current owners have put, sandbags down along the edge to prevent water, which worked in the meantime. But Jay, if you could come up and help me through this, it would be good. But, you know, they are experiencing problems that owners of this property have experienced forever.
Yeah, that I know of, the years that I've been involved, that several owners or business owners, whether they own the building or not, have had issues, water in the basement, and Dwayne before me had commented that it didn't appear that there was anything to stop the water from going from the sidewalk down into the lower levels of the building. And what I struggle with, as she said, is that raising the height of the sidewalk, which is a good idea to keep water at the street, but if you raise it, the doorway on the back of the building is just about level with the roadway and the sidewalk now, and then it could cause, you know, by doing that, are we gonna cause more problem by water that comes down the sidewalk versus what comes down the street? There's no arguing that there's a lot of water comes down that street. But, like I said, there's a stop sign, there's a telephone pole, there's a wheelchair parking spot, all in a 40, 50 foot span alongside of the building, and it's pretty complicated.
And the other thing is that their letter asks for curbing to be replaced. Was there ever curbing in that location?
That I know of, that has always been basically a fairly flat transition towards the side of the building in that back door. Like, there was always deliveries and stuff way back when, like, when I was a kid, it was the Flour Barrel.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew Beth as a kid that ran that, and she had issues with it back then. So, I mean,
Excuse me, Jay,
Yeah.
where is your nearest catch basin to that location?
it's just below it. It's,
Right on the corner?
yep, it's just below the between stop sign and the entry door that's on the corner of the building.
Is there any way you could funnel the water off that sidewalk out onto the street, away from the sidewalk?
Well, that's what this is trying to do, but to make the water go away from the building, right, you'd have to raise the sidewalk, correct? And make it
You
run
can't
away
do
from
it
the building?
Without raising that sidewalk, you can't get that water to come out onto the street and go into the catch basin?
Not with the current heights of all the pavement in the area now, no.
How much can you slope your sidewalk to get it to go away from the building rather than,
It's at that right now.
yeah,
If
it's
you
still,
put more pavement, Jim, I think what he's saying is that it would have pavement on the building itself.
I understand that, but if you, I don't know, I'm not an engineer.
Could you put some kind of drainage up against the building that you could get into
Well,
the?
right, and that's the question, is can we, I'm not against adjusting the sidewalk, curbing, whatnot, but I don't wanna do it and cause more issues to the property owner
Sure.
than we're already having.
And
So,
how long has this been going on?
as long as I can remember.
Well, he's probably 40 years
Yeah.
now.
Yeah, I've worked here for 24 or 5 years. And I've known about it before that.
If we designate another spot for handicap, would that help at all, or?
Well, we were asked to put a handicap spot there several
Because there
years
weren't
ago,
any-
because there
When
weren't
we did
any
our
in that
walk.
entire area, and we decided that was the least intrusive on all of
Yeah.
the neighbors
Yep.
there. So, like I said, I'm certainly not trying to pump the brakes and be a problem. I just don't wanna make more of a problem
Sure.
to the property owner.
Yep.
So,
If
mean,
we
it-
did relocate the handicap spot, putting a curb down there is still gonna mean that the,
right. If we raise the curb, we're still gonna have to manipulate that sidewalk, which can interfere with the siding and the back door of the building, so some work may have to be done to adjust to that, if that's what we do.
And she just told us that if you raise that sidewalk up, you're gonna hit the heat unit,
It's very tight.
the sidewalk line.
Yeah, there's a slim margin of error there. The previous business that was there had some sort of a box or something that was mounted on the side of the building, and we struck it several times trying to fit between the parked cars, the stop sign, and the box to just sneak through there with that machine.
I had the same problem going to the house. Banged my elbow on the heat unit when I was shoveling around by my door.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sounds like the same problem.
Do you think, could you tear down this, well, you can't really tear down the sidewalk at all, right? I mean, you still have the issue of the roadway height.
Well, right, but by going lower, you would potentially allow more street water to, Two.
is there something that we could meet with the owners and look at what they might, if we did something similar to what we did
Yeah.
with community pharmacy, which is say, we'll pull this away from your building to allow you to do the kind of
any waterproofing or
waterproof,
something.
whatever, that
Right,
kind of stuff.
I'm
And
totally on
then-
board with that, if that's what would fix the
And
water.
some sort of lip or something that they put around their back entrance to prevent water
Hmm.
intrusion. Then we put the sidewalk back, as I said, similar to what we did
Yep.
previously, and if that meant relocating a parking space, you might have to do that, but if it allowed a curb there, that would kind of solve that. It wouldn't solve the maintenance problem because of the telephone pole and the stop sign and the thing on the wall.
Right, that's always gonna be tight, and we
That's gonna
accept
be
that.
difficult, but it might, a joint effort may solve the problem better than, I'm not sure the sidewalk's the whole problem. I think part of the problem is that there's nothing that, on the building itself to prevent water intrusion, which, is, as I said, the recent example of community pharmacy who was having the same kind of issue was, we pulled it all away, they had someone do that work, we put it all back together again, and there hasn't been an issue since.
Yeah, I haven't had any complaints since that was done.
Yeah,
Were the building owners aware that this thing has been going on for 40 years?
I'm not sure if this information has been passed on, because several people or owners in a row have had the same complaint.
Yeah, I've gotta wonder who's.
Long after they've taken possession of it, so I don't know if, I mean, I know you're supposed to share that information, but I don't know as it's been,
Well, did they say in their letter that it changed with the paving of Elm Street? Did I read that?
we did work at their request on that sidewalk.
right, I went in and we put a layer of pavement down and left a raised inch and a half edge where the curb line would be, just to help the water coming down the curb that's above, the business above, to just keep it at the street level and then keep going, but we've had a lot of serious rainstorms.
Yeah.
And where I think it's effective for average or small rainstorms, I don't think it's the answer for a deluge like we've experienced
Yeah.
several times.
Right. Sure.
So,
This is the property owners.
Hello.
These are the property owners.
We're talking about.
Okay.
the
We're
issue
talking
with-
about you.
Maybe time
Not in a bad way.
yeah.
So,
Well, I guess that, the solution isn't simple because of the configuration of, you know, where the back door is, how high the pavement can go,
Yeah.
you know, what there is for water protection on the building itself, and maybe, the thing to do is to sit down with, the owners and, if the, you know, we could ask Mandy to sit in to look at what the best, from
Yeah.
Oliver, to
Yeah.
look at what the best answer to that drainage thing is. A couple hours of her time
Mm.
in advisory capacity could help sort of figure that out. The, you know, the building's had water for a long time, but if what the town is contributing to that through whatever, whether it's a location of a handicap spot, that if we put up a curb, then they can't use the handicap spot, or, you know, if that has to be altered, we can do that, but I think maybe an hour or so of an engineer taking a look at that and
Yep.
saying it could be solved this way with the property owners doing X and the town doing Y in terms of the building and the thing. Is
Yep.
that, does that sound like a?
Who's Mandy?
Mandy is an engineer with Oliver Engineering.
Okay.
And I'm sorry, her name is Mandy Oliver, and she's a principal with Oliver Engineering, and they advise the town on
Oh, yeah.
A lot of engineering things.
problems,
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
things that.
It's interesting, I appreciate you, Jay, giving the
Here you go.
background, but, we
Come right up.
definitely.
You wanna come right
you know,
up?
sure.
Podiums, the folks in
You know, we definitely wanna work with the town to do whatever is the right thing. We've owned the property obviously for 5 years, and there never was a problem. Well, you know, like I said, we've owned the property for 5 years, and there never was a problem until it got retired this past summer. And we lost the nice remnant of the curb. So we're open to whatever people want to do. We've put about 150 grand into the place, and would like to continue to make it a good place for the citizens of Bucksport and make that corner safe for pedestrians and make it right. So, any ideas?
So you've owned it for 5 years, and in that
Yes.
time it never bothered?
Well, I have to
Very
say, you know, we can't say that the basement was completely dry, but what's happening now is a river running through it. I think that's a movie, but the way the gravity and the new tar and the lack of the curb is literally just runs right as. So what we did is we got sandbags with, I think, permission, and we built a sandbag curb, and it does a great job of actually directing that water to the drain at the end of the road. But it's an issue with the plow, they don't know where that is, you know, and they're throwing some snow over it, and then I'm throwing it back, and stuff like that. So I think the engineer is what we need, somebody needs to look at it. And our back door is a problem, because it's right at the level of the sidewalk, and, you know, we could maybe change that, you know, doesn't have to stay exactly
That's part
like
of
that.
Jay's concern with
Right.
raising the sidewalk and curbing, is that you're gonna drive water back towards your back door, which is
Right.
already, you're gonna have
But there also seems to be an issue with, and I don't know how this all works, but certain places seem to get plowed, and other places don't. I don't know what the priorities are, but it's, a lot of snow is plowed down towards us from up above and lands in the middle of the sidewalk there, and eventually melts and comes right down. So I don't know what we can do about that, but.
The challenge of plowing the sidewalk with our sidewalk machine in that area is the telephone pole, the stop sign, and the heat pump thing that comes out. The clearance on that is not huge for the plow to be going down along that edge, and, as Jay said in the past, there used to be a box on the outside, we dinged that more than once, not on purpose, it's not a target.
You're talking
Well,
about.
we will do whatever needs to happen, including, if we need to raise the door, heck, that's a minor carpentry, small.
Well, as I said, I think if, Jay, if you give Oliver a call and ask, if she could come over and just, I don't think it would take a lot for her to better understand that.
CES and Brewer, we've used them before, but if you have somebody great, that makes a lot of sense.
We do.
Do you need a recommendation on this one?
Huh?
Do you need a recommendation on this one?
No, I just need you to understand and listen to the property owner's concerns, Jay's information on the topic, and then come to, I've told you I'm
Yep.
gonna have an engineer for an hour or two. We've got money in the budget to do that, but that will be part of the solution to this issue.
One question I did have is, I'm not sure whether the sidewalk, any of that sidewalk is our responsibility, or if it's all, right up to the building is the town.
Do we have an ordinance around sidewalks with businesses?
We maintain town sidewalks. That said, many local business owners, McLeod's and the health center and
Larry Wall.
Cirillo's, a lot of people do their own sidewalk.
Believe me, I
before
have
we
shoveled
get
so
there.
much snow in the last 2 weeks.
And it's heavy.
And I was just curious, because it's a really wide sidewalk on the side there, and I didn't know if it was all technically sidewalk or what, so.
I'm not sure what our setback is on that road, Jay, we'd have to look that up. But I think it's probably constructed the way it is, because to stop short of that building at all with pavement, you'd have a bigger problem, because everything would be right in that little, it wouldn't be much more than that if it was anything, and that would be a perpetual, you might as well pour it in if there was
Yeah, I
no
know.
pavement on.
You're absolutely right.
Good, excellent.
That's, item 4 is adjournment.
Motion to adjourn?
Second?
All in favor?